Hello guys, and welcome to my Magicka Nightblade build video. This is a Destro Resto Magicka Nightblade. It is a rebuild of a Magblade in the past that I have done called Damage, and it hits super hard. It has awesome sustain, and it can fight for very long, and it's really great at just incredibly high stealth uptime, coming out of stealth, hitting your opponent really hard, and then going right back into cloak. And that is what this build is all about. It is very mobile as well, which is really great for the Mag Nightblade. And man, oh, the burst on this build, it's just so beautiful. You can just absolutely nuke people with it. Look at this, so much damage out of stealth. This build absolutely excels at solo PvP. You can use it in a group situation as well, but just due to the nature of the build, it is definitely best at solo, kind of like 1vx or just running around at the back of an enemy siege line, looking to pick off some kills. And yeah, that's pretty much where this build excels. It has been a lot of fun to play this in World PvP, and I really like the rebuild we've gone for this patch. We have an incredibly high crit rate on this build. Fully upgraded, we have 68% crit with 100% crit damage multiplier. So that means our opponent's going to have 6k impen in order to negate our crit damage on this build. So we're going to hit people really hard with our crits on this spec. So if you guys enjoy this video, feel free to hit that like button at any time. If you guys are new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. We upload frequent build content. We also feature community content on the channel as well. So if you guys want to send in any submissions for a community top 5 or to feature maybe even your own build, you can send it to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. There's more information on that stuff in the description of the video below. We also do tons of live gameplay, so if you guys want to see some live gameplay, you can always swing by on my Twitch. So without further ado, guys, as you can see, we're absolutely shredding it up on this Magblade. I hope you guys enjoy checking this build out. We actually make a big mistake here. Should have gone, I think, for the shade. End up costing us on that mistake, eating the snipe where we don't have to. But anyway, let's take a look at that build video. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so let's take a look at the build. So to begin, I am a High Elf on this bad boy. I think High Elf is going to be one of, if not the best race, simply because you get the elemental damage bonuses, but especially to your shock, which we are running the shock enchant on this spec. High Elf, of course, gets the regen and the max magicka. However, you can go with any other race because this build isn't super max magicka dependent. It's not a huge deal, and spell crit no race gets a bonus to spell criticals, so you know it's not super important that you have the right race. However, High Elf is going to be probably your best bet for something like this. Breton is also going to be good. Dark Elf will work as well. And so will Argonian. Now, taking a look at our stat page here, you can see we've got nearly 35k magicka, just under 25k health, and 12k stam. And then when we switch to our resto bar here, our magicka goes down to just under 31k, but our health goes up to 26.7k almost. So we actually get a little bit more health on our resto bar. And our sustains are pretty decent on this build. We've got 2,000. We're going to buff up with the potion here. We've got 2,275 magicka recovery, 1,068 stamina recovery, and 522 health recovery. Now, I am a vampire on this build, but you don't have to be. It's totally up to the user if you want to be vampire or not. If you're not a vampire, you'll have around 800 health recovery on this build, and that's actually really nice. It helps get this build going, helps get you the recovery that you need. Now, taking a look at our max stat paired with our spell damage, we don't actually have a lot of spell damage on this build. However, we have got 66% spell critical. So we've got a massive crit rate on this build. And then, of course, our spell damage is going to be further increased by the Berserker enchant. And this is a Torix pack Berserker enchant, so this will give us about 800 spell damage. So fully buffed on this build, we actually go up to 2,750 spell damage or so. So we actually have a decent amount of spell damage, but it's not the craziest amount. But what's really great about that build is that high crit rate. We have got 66% chance to crit with our spell abilities, and this is very important not only for our damage but also our healing as well. Now, taking a look at our base resistances on this spec, when we buff up, our physical and spell resist are just over 19k, and we've got 2,600 crit resist. So yeah, we've got decent physical spell resist and a nice amount of crit resist and a nice big amount of HP. We're not super bulky, however, we are going to be able to take quite a few smacks on this spec, and that's very important. Now, taking a look at our Mundus that we're running, we actually have the Shadow Mundus on this build, and I went with the Shadow for that increased critical damage because we are playing such a crit-heavy spec. And critical damage is actually going to increase the amount of damage that our Torix Pack does because Torix Pack can crit, so that's a big reason why I picked the Shadow as well. Like I mentioned for Vampirism, it doesn't matter. You can or can't be one. It's up to you. And then the food that we're using is the Clockwork Citrus Fillet. And I would highly recommend you try to use this stuff. You can use the Witch Mother's Potent Brew, which is a cheaper version. Gives you a little bit less stat and no health recovery. However, this is going to be the better food, and I think this is the better one to go for if you can pay the 2 or 3K. It's not too terribly expensive to get one, and it is well worth it. I think that health recovery especially is really nice for PvP. But we're going to get the max health, the max Magicka, we're going to get mag recovery and health recovery, everything we need for this build. Now, let's take a look at the gear that we're running on this spec. So to begin, we have our 5 pieces of Torix Pact, and this is going to be the centerpiece of this build. Torix Pact, of course, is such a great burst set. We have been running it on our Magblade for a long time, and it has always done great for us. And yeah, we're going to keep using it on the damage build because it functions so well. We're going to get some spell damage, some max health, some spell resist, and then increase the weapon enchantment potency and decrease the cooldown by 30%. Really, really nice. Look at these enchants. When we buff up with our Minor Berserk, we get a pretty nice enchant tooltip. 6,600 shock damage. And then we also get 587 weapon and spell damage. So Torix Pact is going to be really nice, not only to make these really high values, but this is on a 1.5 second cooldown. So we're going to be able to bust out a lot of additional damage in every single poke that we do. And that's really the strength of this build, is that our average poke with Swallow Soul deals a huge amount of damage. So we're just consistently dealing high amounts of damage on this spec. Now, for the pairing with Torix Pact, I decided to actually just crank the crit rate up just to make Torix Pact even better, going with our Shadow Mundus, so the rest of our gear, of course, is going to reflect that. We've got a 1-piece Ice Heart on for some spell crit, and a 1-piece Slime Claw on for more spell and weapon crit, but we really just need that spell crit. So this is going to give us more crit there, which is super awesome, going to make our Torix Pact even better, and then the 5-piece we're running is actually a 5-piece Mother's Sorrow. So this is going to give us max mag spell crit, and then a whopping amount of spell crit. I really like this with Torix Pact on the Magblade. Yeah, we get really great consistent damage. This is going to get us that crit rate. This Flame Staff, unfortunately, can be a little bit more expensive to purchase. However, an infused one is fairly cheap compared to the sharpened ones that people are selling. So there you go. And then, of course, the last set that we're running, guys, is a simple Seducer Restoration Staff on the back bar. Now, on this back bar here, you could run the Maelstrom Restoration Staff, which gives you the equivalent of about 400 Magicka recovery when you're using Mutagen. And we are using Mutagen on this build. However, honestly, with the passives that Nightblade has, and because I do have a beneficial race for mag recovery, the Seducer Staff is actually a really good option for that back bar recovery still. So if you don't have the Maelstrom Staff, that's fine. You can go with the Seducer. But if you do have the Maelstrom Staff, you definitely want to use that here for the sustain that it'll give you. Now, taking a look at the traits on the weapons, we have gone with Infused for both of them. Of course, we are playing a Torix Pact build. You have to go Infused for your weapons, and that's just going to allow our enchants to be even more powerful. Taking a look at the jewelry traits, we have Infused, and Arcane. And then the infused jewelry that we have Magicka recovery and stamina recovery, and then Arcane with some spell damage. So the reason we actually went Magicka recovery, stamina recovery here was to kind of make up for the fact that we're not running Amber Plasm, which we used to run on this build in the past. And we didn't run Amber Plasm because I wanted to put the crit on this build, because we can't get the crit anywhere else other than running it in sets. So we could supplement the lack of regen with our jewelry here. So that's why I went with the infused recoveries. Now, the Arcane spell damage, you can change this to infused spell damage. Your damage will go up by a little bit, but that is a transmute, and I didn't want to do it. For the sake of the fact that I have to make so many builds, I just didn't want to transmute this bad boy. So it's up to you if you want to transmute this for your own sake or not. Now, taking a look at the traits on the gear, we have got a mix of impenetrable and well-fitted. We actually have 2 well-fitted and 5 impen on in light armor. You can do a combination of impen well-fitted that you feel works best for you. I actually liked running a little bit more impen on the Magblade. However, I found myself maybe a little bit lower on stam because I was rolling a little often. So maybe for myself, I should throw 1 or 2 well-fitted on as opposed to running as much impen. And then the enchants on the gear, guys, I went with a pretty much all max stat, tri-stat glyphs. If you can do all Hacky Joes, I recommend that you do. Because we get a lot of damage out of Torx Pact, the max Magicka stacking isn't as important as it would be on other builds. So the tri-stat glyphs are really great for this spec. However, if they are too expensive for you, you can just tri-stat the big pieces and then leave the little pieces as max Magicka. Alright, so let's take a look at the abilities that we're using on this spec. So we're going to start on our Destruction Staff bar. The first ability we have is Swallow Soul. This is going to be your primary spammable / spike ability for the build. This paired with your Torx Pact is going to allow you to deal a lot of damage. We're going to buff up and show you the tooltip here. 7,600 Swallow Soul plus 7,100 Torx, or sorry, 6,800 Torx Pact. Yeah, we've got a really, really powerful, consistent spike on this build. Now, this ability here is very important too, because it's going to heal you for 43% of the damage you inflict every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. Due to the changes that Resto Staff took last patch, we actually need to make sure we supplement a lack of healing just from the changes to Healing Ward last patch. So it's very important that I think we run Swallow Soul on the Nightblade this patch as opposed to going for Force Pulse. We could put Force Pulse on here if we wanted, but I think it is more important to keep that Swallow Soul. And then of course we get a max Magicka bonus for this being a siphoning skill as well. Now the next ability we have is Flame Reach. This is your primary stun, and it's going to put a nice damage over time on them. On top of it, this can afflict the burning status, which is just another damage over time on your opponent, and it does quite often, so it just kind of helps you take an opponent down with dots if your burst doesn't quite finish them off. But this is pretty much here because it is your primary stun. It has got a lot of range. This mixed with Swallow Soul means that we can have kill potential at pretty much any distance on this build. We are very deadly regardless of how close or far away we are from a target. If they are within range of our staff, we can put a lot of damage into them. Now the next ability we have is Race Against Time. This is here for 2 reasons. Number 1, we get that Major Expedition, which we don't have outside of this on the build. So if we need to be sprinting around and moving quickly outside or inside of stealth, Race Against Time is going to help us with that. The reduced sprint cost is really nice because it'll allow us to really conserve our stamina bar as we sprint. Really good for a light armor Magicka build. And then finally we get that Minor Force for the crit damage bonus. This is very important because we're playing a very crit focused build, so you want to make sure that you have this buff up as often as you can. Now the next ability we have is Inner Light. This is here for that passive slot. We get 5% plus 2% max Magicka, so 7% total to our bonus max mag on this bar thanks to Inner Light. And then on top of it we get the passive slot Spell Critical, which is what we really want as well for our crit build. This as well is going to give us a Stealth Detect. Now on this build we're actually running I don't have any potions on me, but I do have them here. We actually run the Essence of Detection on them, so we get the Stealth Detect, the Major Sorcery buff from the potion, and Max Magicka from the potion as well. So the Stealth Detect off Mage Light stacks with that Stealth Detect off of our potion, so it can give us a really big radius of Stealth Detect, which is going to be very useful because we are playing a Magblade and it's very stealth heavy, and we're going to have to deal with a lot of stealth gameplay on the opponent's side as well. Especially once we start cloaking, they will cloak as well. Now the final ability that we have on our bar here is Merciless Resolve, and this is here for that minor Berserk buff, very nice for the damage, and then of course, because the Merciless Bow hits so freaking hard, this is going to be your hardest hitting ability on this build by quite a margin. No ability on this build does as much damage. We only have a 16k tooltip on it, which doesn't seem too crazy. However, keep in mind we're running a very powerful crit build. So this is going to hit people very hard with your Torx Pact. This is your biggest range spike. This allows us to really put kill potential at any distance on someone on this build. Now, this patch, the Merciless Resolve projectile is a little slower than it used to be, and a lot of people kind of fret about that. It is good and bad because, yes, your opponent will have more opportunity to dodge it. However, because it's slower, you can fire a Merciless Resolve and then light attack Swallow Soul, and it'll all land at the same time. So at the same time as of it being slower, you can also stack it in a big combo better than we used to. So that's kind of the trade-off, I think, for that change to Merciless. And then finally, guys, our ultimate on the build is Soul Harvest. And I love this ultimate on Magblade so much. It's going to deal a huge amount of burst damage, and we get a 20% damage increase against the opponent after we use Soul Harvest. So we can do huge combination damage into our Merciless Resolve using a Soul Harvest into Merciless. Absolutely destroy someone. And then, of course, when you hit your opponent with it, it will afflict them with Major Defile. Very nice to help you bring down an opponent who's actively healing themselves if you want to beat through their healing. And then when you kill anything, we gain 10 ultimate while this is slotted, and that's on top of the bonus ultimate we gain just for killing a player in PvP, plus our Alliance War passives. So what this means is that if we get a kill with our Soul Harvest, or we get a kill within a few seconds, or just at any time, like if we use Soul Harvest and we get a kill, or we get a kill shortly after, we will almost guaranteed have another Soul Harvest coming up right away. So it just means that we'll have an incredibly high uptime on this ultimate. It means we can spam it like crazy on people and get some really huge burst with it. So it's really, really nice. Now, taking a look at our Restoration Staff bar, the first ability that we have is Mutagen. And I actually went with Mutagen as our primary heal over time, paired with our Swallow Soul. And I really like the combination of these two heals because it's going to give us a good amount of healing. We have 66% crit rate, so heals over time are in particular very good because we can rely on the fact that we're probably going to get quite a bit of healing out of them over the duration of the cast. So we're actually going to get a lot of healing out of these abilities, which is really, really nice. And then if Mutagen, of course, is there, because if we drop below 20% health, it will give us a burst heal and remove a harmful effect. So this is actually really nice. Simply because Healing Ward had its initial heal taken away when you cast it, you only get healed for the remaining shield's strength after the shield actually expires. So this is going to make up for the fact that we don't have that burst heal on Healing Ward. So if our health gets dropped really low, we can cast a Healing Ward and then go for a Mutagen, and our health should shoot back up from the burst heal on Mutagen, and then Healing Ward can help protect us as well. So this is just to kind of make up for that combination there. And then finally, Mutagen offers us a little bit of a counter to damage over time. We have Cloak and Mutagen, so it's not a huge amount. However, it will help when we get hit by those big spikes. It'll remove 1 dot. Or if we get marked and ganked out of a mark super hard, which a Magblade can struggle with, the first part of the mark that gets applied to you is the stealth detection. So if your Mutagen pops and you get that burst heal, it'll actually remove the stealth detection, and then you're free to get away from that mark. And that's another reason I kind of put it there too. If you guys don't want to go with Mutagen here, you don't have to. You could always go for the burst heal off of the Restoration Staff, Blessing of Restoration. And I think this is a great option if you just want to have a burst heal as opposed to trying to rely on dropping your health for the burst heal, because it can be a little bit unsafe to go for the Mutagen heal if you think about it. But I think that the heal over time mixed with our Swallow Soul makes it well worth the slot. And I think at the end of the day, during the course of like good combat, you will get more healing power out of Mutagen for your buck, especially because Blessing of Restoration is going to be a lot more expensive. Now, the next ability we have on our bar is Concealed Weapon, and this is mostly here for that passive slot to increase our movement speed while sneaking or invisible. However, this is also nice because it can set an opponent off balance if we stun them with it, and on top of it, this is an unreflectable attack/stun. A big issue that this build has is that we have a lot of attacks that are reflectable, so if we come by like a Dragon Knight or something, we could really struggle to deal with them if they keep their wings up really well. However, if we have that Concealed Weapon, it gives us another option to stun them out of stealth, as well as apply pressure to our opponent with some attacks that aren't reflectable at all. However, we will be missing the Torx Pact Poke, which is very important to our burst damage. So it's mostly there for that passive speed slot. 25% increased movement speed. Yeah, that's really, really nice, and it's really going to help on your build. Now, the next ability we have is Healing Ward. We talked a bit about this. This is your primary burst heal when shit gets bad. This paired with Mutagen and your Swallow Soul should be enough to keep you alive in most situations. And then, of course, we have a defensive ultimate in case things get out of whack as well. So, yeah, liking this ability for the Nightblade, honestly. Nightblade needs that burst heal, so Healing Ward works really well on it. The next ability we have is Shadow Image. This ability is really nice for Nightblade. You get the minor maim. It's going to deal a bit of damage to your opponent as well. And then on top of it, you can teleport back to the Shade. However, this patch Shade is really broken. It doesn't work properly. You oftentimes cannot teleport back to the Shade reliably. If there's any height difference between you and the Shade, it does not seem to work. So if you guys are watching this video in the future and Shade's working fine, awesome. but as it sits right now when I'm recording this, Shade does not work very well, but I would still recommend that you use it because it helps Magicka Nightblade a lot with getting out of snares, and it's very important to keep your Shade down preemptively as you enter fights on the Magblade. So it sucks that it's not working well, but when it does work, it really helps Magicka Nightblade shine. And then finally, guys, the last ability that we have is Shadowy Disguise. This is going to be access to stealth, and we get a guaranteed crit coming out of stealth as well, which is really nice, but not super necessary because we do have a high crit rate already. But yeah, that's our access to our stealth here. Stealth, of course, is going to be great because people can't see us, and when you're in cloak, damage over time effects don't hurt you, so you can suppress damage over time, so it's really nice for that dot counter as well. And then for the ultimate on the Resto staff, we have got Panacea. I would recommend that you go for the Lights Champion morph, giving us major force and major protection. That crit damage buff is going to be so nice on this build. And then finally, the major protection will add more bulk to when you use the heal on this build as well. I was just using Panacea. I tried Tether as well. I think Panacea is the way to go. You can go for the Sigil Guild ultimate if you want. However, Shade is the better option. But Shade doesn't work right now, so maybe Sigil Guild alt until they fix Shade. Kind of up to you guys, but I really like the Resto alt. It gives this build bulk, which it kind of doesn't have, and yeah, so this build's very kitey, very stealthy. We don't have bulk, so this will just give you an opportunity to be bulky for a little bit, and that's really nice because you sometimes need that in PvP. Alright, so let's take a look at the champion points on this spec. We're going to start off in the tower tree. We got 26 Warlord, 16 Sprinter, and 1 in Siphoner. Focus, of course, on Warlord because we got to break free. We're going to have to sprint as well. This pairs really nice with our acceleration ability that reduces the cost of our sprint. And then Siphoner because we had 1 point left over. In the Lover tree, we've got 64 Arcanist, 43 Mooncalf, and 43 in Healthy, and 0 in Tenacity. I actually opted out of going Tenacity because our regen is very high, and we really shouldn't be popping many Resto Heavies on this build. Outside of, like, hard 1vx, you shouldn't have to pop a lot of Resto Heavies. And, like, you can pop the occasional Resto Heavy, but it's definitely not necessary for the overall sustain of this build. Between your potion and regen, you should be fine. Mooncalf and Healthy because we need both these regens. Both of them are hovering around 1k if we're not a vampire. Health recovery around 800, Mooncalf around 1000. So putting the points in here is really nice. And then Arcanist, of course, because we are Magicka focused, 64 points for that focus there. In the Shadow tree, we've got 51 Tumbling and 26 in Shadow Ward. Focus on Tumbling because we're going to be rolling more than we're blocking. However, we're going to need block as well, and we're going to block, of course, incoming stuns, etc. that we can, or block to make sure we're safe before we enter cloak and stuff like that. So we need to put a few points in there too. The important passive I think that we need to get here is Wind Running. Increase our health and Magicka recovery while sprinting is actually nice because we have the sprint bonus anyway, and then 2% movement speed across the board. Also really nice. Movement speed's really good for world PvP. In the Apprentice tree, we are stacked max Magicka damage. We've got 40 Spell Erosion, 49 Elemental Expert, and 61 in Elfborn. Huge focus on the crits here, and I decided to focus really big on the crits for 2 reasons. Number 1, we're crit focused. We got a lot of crit damage, so let's stick with that. But number 2, this increases our critical healing as well, and we have a very high crit rate, so let's take advantage of those high critical heals. Lots of heals over time. This is going to be really good for that. So we really stack that Elfborn tree for that reason, and then follow it up with Elemental Expert, and then some in the Spell Erosion as well. Our important passive here is to get that Spell Precision, 9% crit. Very important. And then, of course, there's Arcane Well, which is nice for sustain if you're getting some good ganks, but really doesn't have a massive impact in PvP for the most part. So I did want to mention that the crit multiplier on this build actually comes up to 100%, 9% from our Mundus, 21% from here for 30% total, 10% from being a Nightblade, 10% for the Minor Force buff, and 50% base. So we have 100% critical damage, meaning that our opponent would need 6,000 impen in order to fully negate our critical damage on this build. So I think that's a really great place to sit for PvP because it has a very high impen requirement to be fully hard countered, which is really good. Now, taking a look at the Atronach, we have got 81 in Master at Arms and 39 in Staff Expert. Very standard Atronach tree for a burst build. Master at Arms focus, of course, 24% direct damage increase. This is our Torg's Pact enchant, and all of our attacks Very important. And then Staff Expert for that increased single target damage with our staves as well. Really nice for our fire staff pokes on top of it. And then the important passive we get here is Tactician. Roll dodge to set an opponent off balance. This is great because we can potentially stun an opponent with the off balance. Not to mention, we get a damage bonus against an off balance opponent anyway. Now, taking a look at our ritual tree, we've got nothing because we don't use any physical weapons. In the steed, we have got 61 ironclad and 59 resistant. Focus on ironclad, of course, to reduce incoming direct damage. Most burst abilities will be direct damage. And then resistant to increase our crit resist. A lot of burst is going to be crit focused. With the changes in the Murkmire patch, crit builds are a lot more popular, i.e. this is a crit build, so critical resistance is very important for PvP, especially today. So there you go. In the lady tree, we've got 23 hardy, 23 elemental defender, 20 thick-skinned, and 57 in light armor focus. Now, in hindsight, we could actually take a little bit out of light armor and maybe put it in hardy, so go around 30 hardy and 50 light armor focus. But we focus big time on the light armor resistance to increase our physical resist, because that is what is going to smack us the hardest out of everything on this build. We're going to get hit hard by those physical attacks, and this helps supplement the fact that we're light armor and we don't have high physical resistance. And then these resistances here are a nice equal spread, and we don't neglect damage over time, because even though we have a high cloak up time, if we get marked, etc., we're going to have to deal with the dots, so we have a little bit of points in there as well. And then in the Lord tree, we've got the 20 Bastion. This is for our healing ward to make it even bigger when we cast it, just for those front end heavy points. And 7 in quick recovery for a little bit of bonus to our healing power. And that is the build, ladies and gentlemen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's jump into a little bit of PvP commentary. So like I mentioned, this build is really great for solo PvP. So all our commentary here is pretty much solo PvP. As you can see, we come by a big group of players. They do see us. We go into stealth and open on the front player there. We actually put huge damage into him. He doesn't heal, and the dots from our fire staff actually kill him right as he's on the verge of death. So we're just going to kite around the top here. Make sure to stay mobile, rebuff, and then come and check this body out. This guy is going for the res here. We get him with a nasty stun. He goes for the dodge roll after breaking the stun, so we hold the heavy and then give him a poke to bring him down as well. Just massive burst. Couple players here. We hit the second one with a good stun there. Go for a bit of a combo off the roll there. Decide to reopen on this healer here. Go for a massive combo with our spectral bow as well as our ultimate. Still not enough to bring the healer down. And we are now in kind of a tricky spot. We're fighting on top of this spot here with no terrain, so we're just going to have to make sure to be stealthing up a lot. Do a little bit of a kite around here, get a nice stun off on this guy. We jump down, popping over top of the other players, and finish off the player that we managed to stun there. Get a good stun off on this guy here. Huge combo coming into our ultimate there. Oh my god, absolutely nuking him down. And now we're left with 3 players on the bridge. This guy tries to res. We're not going to let that happen. We go for the stun right away. And just in this first clip here, you guys can see how much firepower this build has and how much pressure we can apply to a group of players. And here you can see this Templar is holding block and just pounding her heals, and we are brutalizing her, man. We're doing so much damage to her, but unfortunately now she also has the Warden, who's going to be dumping his ultimates on her as well. So we're going to have to just deal a bit of pressure to these guys in order to take them down, but I think that we managed to kill a majority of this group right off the bat, so we're just left with the tankier players, which is exactly what we want. And these guys are just playing very defensive, so I'm going to be patient here because these guys are aware of my presence. It's going to be tough to get kind of the drop on them, if you catch my drift. So we're just going to be patient and make sure to keep our buffs up and our resources high in case another yellow player shows up. And this is just kind of good practice if you're fighting outnumbered and you're controlling the fight that you're in. You want to make sure that you don't, you know, waste unnecessary resource, especially in a position between 2 keeps that are kind of like contested like this. And as you can see here, these guys are just pounding heals on each other, man. This Templar is just healing the crap out of herself. They're dumping each other's ultimates in order to stay alive, and we're trying here, man. We're just going to keep the pressure up. These guys are not really doing any damage to us, so we're just kind of free to rotate on them. So we're just kind of trying all the damage we can do here, going for those big stuns on them. There you see the flame the Flame Staff knockback into the Spectral Bow, into the ultimate. Oh my gosh, we finally bring that tanky player down. Massive amounts of damage into him, and we pretty much just dumped our entire burst kit on him to kill him. And now we're left with that last Templar. We got a Nightblade coming out of stealth here. We go for a roll dodge to dodge his initial snipe. Second roll there because he's charging another snipe. Go into stealth to turn here. Go for the stun, but he actually enters cloak right before we hit him with the attack. And he's just going to pop out his stealth yet again here. But no, he's going to cloak away. So we go back to attacking this very tanky Templar. She actually is not super tanky. She just has a strong block and has been full healing herself pretty much every time. And there you see that Spectral Bow combo where we use the lag on the bow to stack it on top of the other attacks. Huge combo to actually bring her down at the end here. So this next fight here, we are defending King's Crest from a bunch of blues that actually, they were on a resource and I kept trying to attack it and they killed me over and over and over. So I went AFK a bit and they came in and attacked the keep. So we're going to try to do a bit of a defense on the keep here. And excuse that pretty face in the left there. We were doing a cam stream this time. So as you can see there, we just put a bit of damage into these guys, trying to pick a target, you know, just find out who we can actually put some pepper into here. But having a little bit of issues. A friendly player goes balls deep. Oh my god, he does a lot of damage. We managed to put pressure on the same player that he's putting pressure on, bringing her down with him. So there we go. We lose the friendly player, but we managed to take one blue down. There's still 5 blues left though, so we're still in quite a bit of trouble here. And we get a bash off, keeping this guy's body on the ground. Now note that body on the ground. A big part of why we're going to win this fight is because that body is still on the ground there. We set down the shade to make sure we have a safe teleport back. Go for the interrupt and the fire staff knockback so we get him off balance for the damage bonus as well. Shoot the spectral bow at the next target after killing that guy. Massive damage into the fire staff knockback, bringing him down as well. And now we have these 2 Sorks left here, and they're just kind of shooting their Sork stuff at us, and we're just going to kite them out a little bit. And try to pull a little bit of guard aggro. But as you can see, we're going to have some friendly players coming in here as well. He's trying to res his friendly player. No, you don't. We're going to punish him with big damage there. Almost kill him. They go for the meteor. We have just enough stamina to block the meteor and enter cloak after we block the meteor. So we got really lucky there. He tries to go for a res again. We go for yet again a big burst on him, dropping his health bar really low. These Sorks are going to have to be careful trying to res with us coming out of stealth here. And I think we managed to maybe catch one of these guys here. Put some damage into this guy. He takes some heat. This guy actually gets hit by a snipe up top. We go for the stun on him. He eats another snipe, goes down. Put huge damage into this guy with our ultimate. And he actually, I think, is going to respond by pounding his shields. Oh my god, look at his health bar. Goes for his Resto ult to save himself there. And now we have a few more EP coming in. And it's going to be an easy cleanup to take care of this last Sork here. All right. This poor guy here. Oh my god, he's got nothing in the tank left. There we go. So moving on to the next clip, guys. We actually have quite a lengthy clip here. And this was a pretty fun fight we got outside of the mile gate. So as you can see, we're on our horse or bear. And this guy rides up. And we just want to engage with him. I actually don't stealth up, just wanting to go for like a simple out of stealth engagement just to start off the fight. A couple more blues right in. We get a great stun off on this guy. And we go for the Swallow Soul light attack combo, doing so much damage to him, bringing him down. Go for a stealth detect to see if we can maybe pop this guy out. However, he does not stick around where we are. There's the Nightblade there. We jump off, heavy attack into the incapacitating strike. What a beautiful kill coming off the top of that thing. Oh my god. Absolutely nuke that guy. This guy goes for the res. We make sure to bash him as we go for the Swallow Soul as well. So we're going to get the interrupt and the partial stun off the bash. Bonus damage off our next Swallow Soul, bringing down the player going for the res there. We actually go for pressure on the side player, not attacking the player going for the res. Hit him with a knockback into the in-cap. Sorry, not the in-cap, the Soul Harvest. Massive damage, bringing him down. Now, the player that went for the res, he quit resing right away. We had our eye on him, and I was going to stun him, but he stopped going for the res. This player that we just resed here, look at that. He just gets nuked. He just gets killed right away again. Oh my god, they just resed him right back down. So we're just going to run around a little bit, reset our buffs, and then we're going to re-engage with the back end of these guys. We get a bit of a gank from a Nightblade on the side here, and here we go. Lots of pressure. Go for the double direction change as we enter stealth. Hold block when that meteor comes down. Now, there's kind of a game bug there, and the meteor doesn't even register that it hit me, which is strange, but we did the right thing to counter it there. If it had hit us, we would have blocked it. Take a nasty gank out of stealth from a Nightblade there. We break it, roll, go back into cloak, and turn on him with the heavy attack. Now, the heavy attack will stun him because he is set off balance from our roll, so we don't actually have to throw the fire attack there, but I didn't know if we'd set him off balance or not. And he ends up running off. EP ends up pushing DC out of this location, and things get a little trolly here. I decide that, well, we're just going to hang out on the top of this thing, and I actually pick up a few kills here. So as you can see, we've got a player at the bottom there. We hit him with the heavy attack into the fire staff stun. He goes for the double roll and survives, and then comes inside the mile gate, stops rolling, thinking it's safe. Oh my god, that is going to be the theme of sitting up here, honestly. People roll inside here, and they think it's safe when they roll in. And we put some damage into this guy here. He ends up riding off. Miss our opportunity there. But they think it's safe when we attack them once they come inside, but it's really not. This guy here, very high HP. He's just kind of sitting there, so we just lob a couple fireballs into him. Hit him with the stun there. Hit him with some Swallow Souls. And he ends up running underneath us. He does not go inside, knowing that it's not safe there. Tries to go for the Javelin stun here. He gets the stun, but it is not the knockback Javelin, thank God. So we managed to stay in the tower. Hit him with the Swallow Soul into the Spectral Bow. Massive combo to bring him down. Another player comes around the corner there, and we just throw the stun at him. And these DC come charging down the hill. We're just going to wait for our opportunity here. This guy goes to ride in. Oh, no. We get some good damage into him, and it's not safe. He even tries to hide in the corner, man. Oh, I feel bad, but I don't feel bad at the same time, you know? It's just really funny. This guy here is going to go for the res on the friendly player here. We go for the heavy attack into the knockback there, hoping to prevent the res. And he does get stunned. He doesn't break it. He ends up rolling later and just running away. So we're just going to go right back to ganking here. We put some pressure into this guy, but he ends up running past. This guy gets stealth rezzed. Oh, no, we can't have that. We just go right back into cloak, and these guys finally decide that they're going to come around up top and push me out of this spot. So I put some damage into this guy here. He's holding his block. Great job. A Nightblade throws the Caltrops down, and I just drop down right away because I'm not going to be able to cloak up in those Caltrops. So we're going to have to start moving. The meteor comes down there. We block the meteor. No animation on it. Thank you, Zenimax, for showing that meteor animation. But we still block it. We shade back behind here, and we're still safe. And we're just going to bide our time a little bit and try to open up on these guys here. This Templar sees us, goes for the jabs there. We go for a Fire Staff knockback on him there. Take a nasty stun from the time stop. Go for our Resto ultimate. And the Resto ult's going to be the saving grace. Decide to go for a heavy Resto attack just to get some mag back while we have the Resto ult up. And we end up taking quite a bit of damage. Go for the Fire Staff Spectral Bow combo. With the knockback Spectral Bow, kill that one Templar with the fall damage as he goes down. This guy's putting pressure into us with the executes. However, our heal over time and our shield is doing enough to keep us alive, and we're just going to keep whittling down on him while we heal ourselves with our Torix Pact enchants. And there you see the knockback into the in cap. Massive damage with the enchant procs. Oh my god. We bring another player down. So we come down here. We see a Nightblade. He enters stealth. We pop him with our stealth detect. He just re-enters stealth here. He attacks us from behind. We do a great job blocking his incoming attack there. He goes for his in-cap. We don't block it. Take a nasty stun there. And we go for a little bit of a funky shade. Not really lots of movement there, but just enough to sidestep and get out of there so we can just sit on the side here and hopefully get a little bit of Magicka back, as we have been having a lot of pressure here. So we need a little bit of mag to keep going. And we see the player there. This is the Nightblade. I think we're going to reopen on the Nightblade. He goes into stealth. We pop him out of stealth with our detect. Go for the heavy attack into the in-cap. And here you see, oh, we almost get him there. We go for another poke. There's the Swallow Soul poke after his dodge roll to bring him down. And this guy comes up the side here. We're very, very low on Magicka. So I go for the heavy attack to return a little bit of resource. Little bit of a weird angle there as we drop down, and I actually end up just disengaging from the fight here entirely. So there you guys go. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, like I said, hit that like button. And we are sponsored by What the Fast. They're a VPN for gamers. So if you guys get crap pinged to your favorite games, I implore you to check them out. And that's pretty much it today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the build, and I will see you next time.